Actually just reading and discussing this interview with Bill Chisum in the Boston Globe. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it, but we were discussing it in comparison to Fenway Park the last couple nights. They've been chanting "sell the team," and coincidentally or not, we now have an article in the Globe where Bill Chisum says, "I'll do anything to win, hand on my heart. We're going to make every decision to win because I'm a fan." Is that realistic? Is that who Bill Chisum is, even if it comes in a year in which they shed a bunch of salary to get under all the thresholds?
Well, it's not realistic to spend your way to success in the NBA. The new restrictions with the second apron particularly have made roster building impossible if you spend too many years in that second apron. The question is, will Bill Chisum or any owner spend a couple of years in the second apron, dip into it when you have to, absorb these big tax bills when you have an opportunity to create a 2 or 3 year window to win a championship? I've been around Bill a little bit over his time as an owner. I had a chance to talk to him last time I was in Boston for a bit, and he's obviously an enthusiastic guy. I mean, he's clearly a fan first and foremost. And look, I think more than anybody else, he's benefited greatly from this team's success. This was supposed to be a gap year. The injury to Jason Tatum saved him from maybe having to make some very tough financial decisions when it came to key players on that roster. So he's had a great honeymoon of a season on the job. I think where we'll find out won't be this year, may not even be this summer, but 2 years down the line when you've got to pay Peyton Pritchard again, when some of these young guys that are showing out right now are up for bigger contracts. That's, I think, when we'll see what, how much the investment this ownership group is going to put in to this team. But right now you have to like the attitude, and you have to like, everything you've seen so far from Bill Chisum.
Chris, big one tonight against Charlotte in a lot of ways, because this could very well be a team that the Celtics play in the playoffs. There could be up to 4 different teams, obviously, depending on how the play-in goes. But also, they traded victories a couple weeks ago. Charlotte came here, put one on the Celtics. Celtics paid them back. Is this sort of a full-throttle effort tonight for the Celtics to let Charlotte know exactly what they might be dealing with, and also make sure that they don't have to play full tilt against the Knicks on Thursday?
Yeah, well, a couple things there. One, yes, you want to go full tilt in this game for a couple of reasons to, do further solidify your spot as a number 2 seed, which I think is important to this team when you talk about the second round of the playoffs. You don't want to go up against the Knicks or whoever without home court advantage, and to maybe send a little bit of a message to Charlotte, who did beat the brakes off the Celtics in Boston, like you said a few weeks ago, that they're the better team, and kind of put that in their minds. Don't give a young team like Charlotte any kind of confidence. I mean, the core of that team is excellent, but they're incredibly inexperienced. No playoff experience for any of the meaningful guys on that roster. You want to, send them into the postseason with some doubts about playing the Celtics. But on the subject of the Knicks, look, I think you go into the game Thursday, regardless, want to beat the brakes off the Knicks too. Like, there's a chance you don't have to play the Knicks in the second round. There's a chance you can bump the Knicks down to the 4 seed if things kind of break their way. If Cleveland keeps winning, and if you beat the Knicks on Thursday, and I can tell you, I like the matchup with Cleveland a lot better than I like the matchup with New York in the second round. Even though the Knicks have been kind of a jumbled mess over the last few weeks, they still have the ability to level up with a lot of those guys, and we saw it last year in the playoffs. I'd much rather, if I'm Boston, play a Cleveland team that's weak defensively on the perimeter, that has some questions with its backcourt with such a short period of time, Harden and Mitchell playing together, 2 bigs in the front court. Like, there's just a lot more you can exploit on Cleveland than you could with New York.
Chris, I'm curious what you think. Nikola Vucevic came back from his injury. Hasn't looked great. You got Neemias Queta balling out. Heck, even Luka Garza looking good. What do you think about Vucevic's impact with this team in the playoffs? Do you think there's a role for him, and do you think he's going to be an important part of them getting to where they need to go?
I think he has to play a role, and you're right. He hasn't played well since he hasn't played well since he got to Boston. Frankly, like he just hasn't really found his niche with this team just yet. But this is not a team with great front court depth. I mean, Queta has been excellent, a top candidate, I think, for most improved player. Luka Garza so much better than I expected him to be when they signed him in the offseason. But that's two guys. You still need a third guy in that mix, and Vucevic is the most qualified to take that spot. And look, there are going to be matchups where you need floor spacing, and Vucevic, of the three guys there, probably the best equipped to do that. I know Garza has made some shots this year, but Vucevic has done it at an all-star level in his career. So getting him comfortable, getting him, as in the best condition he can possibly be in going to the playoffs, that's going to be huge, because a second-round matchup with, say, the Knicks right now, you're going to need Vucevic spacing the floor to get Mitchell Robinson out of the paint or Karl Anthony Towns out of the paint. The conference finals, same thing with Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart. You need floor spacing bigs in series like that, and Vucevic, even though he hasn't played like one up until this point, is still one of the better floor spacers in this league.
Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix here on WEEI Afternoons. Along those lines, the rotation has closed a little bit, or at least Hugo Gonzalez has been on the outside looking in the last couple games. Ron Harper Jr. also. Is Shireman, Walsh, are they in the playoff rotation? Is there room for anyone else? How do you think that's shaking down as we finish things out here?
Now we say that with the caveat that Joe Mazzulla changed his rotations on a dime. I mean, you start the season with Josh Minott playing big minutes. All of a sudden, Luka Garza's in the rotation. Jordan Walsh is in and out. Like, he coaches, like, he's an analytic mind. There's no doubt about that. But he has kind of a great feel for that locker room and a great feel for matchups. So things can shift. But this is kind of what you expect from a top-tier playoff team going into the postseason, to kind of shrink that rotation down and to figure out, who fits best as you head to the playoffs. And Jordan Walsh has been such a defensively versatile guy for this team. I would expect him to have a spot in this rotation. I think Baylor Shireman's ability to make shots has proven out over the course of the last few weeks. I think that's got him into the rotation. So yeah, I think you are seeing a shrink. I don't think there won't be a role for someone like Hugo, who can be a guy you can say, listen, go play 8 minutes of frenetic defense on, one of the top wing players on the other team, or get out there, make some back cuts, get to the rim, offensive rebound. You could still pick and choose your spots with guys like that. But yeah, I think Jordan Walsh, Shireman, they make the most sense for this team to have as part of their 8 or 9 man rotation going to the playoffs.
Chris, it caught my eye the other day that Giannis Antetokounmpo was actually praising Joe Mazzulla and the Celtics when talking about where he wants to land next year and what kind of culture he wants, saying, look at the way that the Celtics played this year. This was supposed to be a gap year, and they've all bought in, and they're playing some of their best basketball. This is not a, hey, Giannis to the Celtics question, but rather you were a believer in that Mazzulla could and should be coach of the year. Do you think there's any chance he can win now, or is this probably still Bickerstaff's to lose?
I think he can win. I was having this conversation with a couple of voters earlier today, actually. We were kind of kicking around who we're going to vote on for respective awards. And, at least a couple that I've talked to plan to vote for Joe Mazzulla. I plan to vote for Joe Mazzulla. Look, it's nothing against J.B. Bickerstaff, who was obviously qualified for this job. He was qualified for the award last year, too. I mean, he probably should have won it last year. It took a superlative season from out of Cleveland for Kenny Atkinson for that award to go to him. But this team had zero expectations on it this year. They lost a bunch of guys and didn't replace them with anyone that looked like they were close to the caliber of those players. And look, it's a small sample size, but they started the season off 0-3. Like, no one thought this team, after 3 games, did anyone believe that this team was a 50-win team? Now they're probably going to win like 56 games, going to the playoffs as the number 2 seed. There's a lot of credit that goes around for that. I mean, it starts with Jaylen Brown in the MVP conversation, Derek White in the All-NBA conversation, but Joe Mazzulla has extracted more out of the talent on this team than I think any coach in the league has, or could. And I think that gives him a slight leg up over a J.B. Bickerstaff in Detroit, a Mitch Johnson in San Antonio, any of the top-tier guys that are out there competing for that award.
Hey, Chris, you recently said that the Celtics, if they were able to win the championship, they'd be the greatest championship, maybe not even in his Celtics history, but in the NBA championship.
No hyperbole there whatsoever.
No. And it's great because it's gotten so much run, and it is an interesting debate. Can you just kind of make a case for that being, if they were to win it, why would it be the greatest run for a team?
It starts with the expectations. Ending last season, gutting your team, having your superstar out for what was believed to be the season at the start of it, getting a bunch of guys that were either late first or second round draft picks playing bigger roles, getting a bunch of guys who were kind of scrap heap signings. That's what we thought of Luka Garza and Josh Mina at the time. Like, I remember, having conversations about how the Celtics were taking the guys that Minnesota didn't want. Like, Minnesota wanted everybody that they could get their hands on that could play minutes after their offseason. The guys they didn't want, the Celtics picked up. The fact that they've been able to take that situation, turn it into this type of team, and if you get through New York, Detroit, and if you win a championship against, a Thanos from the Western Conference, which is going to be either San Antonio or Oklahoma City, most likely. If you can get through one of those two teams in the finals, maybe even Denver, I guess you have to include them in that mix. Any one of them, that is going to be the greatest accomplishment I can remember. Now, some people push back and said the 2011 championship that Dirk won with the Mavericks, that was big, and I agree, that was a great championship. But there were some expectations with that team. They had some Hall of Famers on this team. This team had zero expectations. I put the over-under at like 34.5 wins coming into this year. If they win a championship, to me, it is the most remarkable, the most impressive, the best championship that's ever been won.
Chris, I don't know if it's getting the same amount of attention that Bill Belichick did, obviously, due to the tie-ins locally, but Michael Malone going to UNC, what did you make of that? Is that more about him just being unemployed? Is there just a different world of basketball? What did that hire sort of indicate to you?
Yeah, this is like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. You hire a professional coach to run your football program. That has not worked out up until this point. Now you hire a professional basketball coach to run your basketball program, and that has not worked out. Like, I've done a little bit of reporting on this the last 6 or 7 hours. I mean, the money played a big role for Michael Malone, $8.3 million per year, right around there. That is upper half of the NBA coaching money. Now, maybe Michael Malone, given that he's won a championship before, could have commanded $10 million on the coaching market, but $8.3 million is big money. And I guess it makes him, the second highest paid coach or third highest paid coach in all of college basketball. So that played a role in it. And look, I can sit here on the outside and say that I thought Malone would be a top candidate for one of the available coaching jobs coming this summer. And we all can point to some of the obvious candidates. You've got Milwaukee, you've got Orlando, maybe Dallas opens up if Jason Kidd goes upstairs. There's some jobs out there. But Michael Malone has good coaching agents. And I wonder, and some people have said to me, that maybe those coaching agents canvassed the league and checked out his prospects of landing a job in one of these NBA markets, and maybe they weren't great. So clearly Michael Malone wants to coach. Clearly he hates being a pundit. So this is a great opportunity for him to step in and make a bunch of money coaching a blue blood program. For North Carolina, I don't really get it because, look, like, college coaches are good coaches. They're not great coaches, though. Like, X's and O's, that's not what college coaches are really known for. They excel at player development. They excel at recruiting. They excel at getting these kids to run through a wall for them. Like Michael Malone, maybe he can do that, but let's not forget, he was let go in Denver in part because he wouldn't play young guys. Like, he was looking to play veterans like Russell Westbrook during these times. So it just seems like a strange fit. Maybe Michael Malone will make it work. Maybe his coaching acumen is that good that it translates to the college level. But this just seems like a strange fit for both sides with his job.
UNC basketball, the 31st team. That's what their motto's going to be.
Yeah, that's been used, and it didn't go well for Bill. All right, Chris, appreciate you joining us, and we'll touch base next week.
Thanks, Chris.
You got it, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, Chris.